Welcome to Free Marketing Fridays, 20 minutes to give you actionable advice that you can use today. We all need to work smarter, not harder, and this 20 minutes is designed to help you do just that. So there's no fluff, no hustle bro anything, and I'm not going to pitch you on buying a course or a paid community. No one needs that. So today, we need to have a little chat. So I'm going to need you to scooch a little bit closer and pay attention for a second. Most of you are being lazy about your competitive differentiation, and it's probably costing you deals and opportunities. And I know this sounds harsh, but hear me out for a second. While you're obsessing over what your competitors are launching and what they're doing and spending hours building out comparison charts, you're completely missing this goldmine of competitive insights sitting right in front of you in your existing customers. And the crazy part is that your customers probably already told you exactly what makes you different. You're just not listening. So let's change that up, shall we? I'm going to show you exactly how to do that today. All right, so here's what we're working with today, and here's how we're going to spend 20 minutes together. I'm going to show you why those comparison charts you spent weeks perfecting are actually training your prospects to shop someplace else. And then we will dig into where your real competitive advantages are hiding and how to use them. And spoiler alert, they're not in your feature list. And then I will give you some real world examples of companies who are struggling to find and really use their competitive advantages and companies who are doing it right. So this is a lot to cover in 20 minutes. Let's get to it. Take a look at this. If you're in SaaS or in tech, you know exactly what this is and why it probably strikes fear in your heart. This is the MarTech technology map for 2025. And it's not any smaller this year than it was last year. This is what your prospects are staring at when they're trying to choose a solution. Every little square, every little dot is an individual company vying for your attention and vying for dollars. Holy crap, right? That's a lot. There are over 15,300 solutions or companies on this map. It's 9% bigger than it was last year. So how the hell are you supposed to stand out in a mess like this? Most companies look at this map and think well, we better make sure our feature list is longer and better than everybody else's. Wrong answer. When you're trying to stand apart and convince prospects that you're the better solution, leaning into your features list is not the way to go. And I'm going to show you why. And if you know what category of software you're looking for, for instance, if you were looking for accounting software, and then you drill down using something like G2 in order to kind of narrow your options, look at this. This is their homepage. There are 9 options on their homepage just for accounting software. And there are almost 600 accounting software options, pages and pages and pages of solution that all sound exactly the same. Everyone's got the best in class this and industry leading that. And then even more recently, AI driven, AI powered, whatever. I randomly picked accounting software because it was right there. But this is an example. It's not strange. It's not an outlier. It's not an anomaly. Everybody has competitors. And yeah, SaaS is pretty cutthroat, generally speaking. But what we're talking about today could apply to any industry because we all have competitors, even when that competitor is just the status quo or not picking any solution at all because you get overwhelmed and decide now is not the time to make a switch. You would be surprised how many prospects in the SaaS space decide not to pick any solution whatsoever and just stick with Excel. It's mind-blowing. Your prospects are drowning in overwhelm. And if you're competing against the industry leader with massive brand recognition, you've absolutely got your work cut out for you. You've got to start building and reinforcing a competitive moat because you're not going to survive without it. If we haven't met before, my name's Sunny Hunt. I'm the Chief Customer Nerd here at Hunt Interaction. We help recurring revenue companies grow their customer base in smarter and more efficient ways, starting with their most profitable customers. And my work typically lives at the intersection between customer research, strategic customer growth, and revenue acceleration. And I've worked with all of these companies and a ton more. And I've worked with companies across 15 different industries and more than that. And surprisingly enough, customer growth challenges are pretty similar across the board. It's just the particulars of solving those challenges that tends to vary. Let's talk about the default competitive elephant in the room, the comparison chart. What once started off as a cheat sheet for marketers and sales teams has turned into the company diss track, and it's made its way to your website. And probably with a lot of discussion, 15 rounds of revisions, and really expensive meetings. It's the marketing equivalent of the battle between Drake and Kendrick, except way less entertaining, infinitely more boring for your prospects. And unlike the Drake versus Kendrick battle, there's no clear winner for your prospects. They lose. You're basically creating a public roast of your competitors while simultaneously training your prospects to shop on features and price. And you're setting up your prospects with an additional burden of doing homework. You're asking them to take on the burden of verifying your claims on your comparison chart because you know your competitors have a different way to spin this feature battle argument to make themselves look like the heroes, right? This is marketing. This is what happens. There is a time and a place for a comparison chart. I absolutely believe that. But I argue that it's closer to the point of conversion or closing a deal and not as an argument for generating awareness. And definitely not in a place of understanding from your customer's perspective. Like what makes your solution different and better beyond a feature that a dev team can whip up in their next sprint. Your competitive differentiators live with your existing paying customers. You just have to extract those insights and use them. So this is QuickBooks. We all know QuickBooks, accounting software. I'm just kind of sticking with the theme here. They are literally calling out a competitor, FreshBooks, by name and building an entire comparison page around it. Look at all the work that went into this. They spent time, energy, budget, creating this detailed feature by feature breakdown. And you know they had a lot of meetings about this. This was not an insignificant investment. And yeah, there's a lot of value proposition copy on the page that works to align with the values of their prospects. But the whole point of this page, the reason why it exists, is for that chart breakdown and the comparison of features between QuickBooks and FreshBooks. And like when you zoom in on this chart, it's just a breakdown of features designed to make FreshBooks look subpar to QuickBooks. So what did they accomplish by doing this? They taught their prospects to zoom in on features. They made the buying decision largely about checking boxes and loving a green check mark instead of solving an actual problem. And if you thought FreshBooks was better, not really. They have an equivalent landing page. They have an equivalent landing page with probably like just as much thought, effort, time, attention to detail, and investment put into this page as QuickBooks did. And again, once you zoom in on the chart, it's more features, except this time it's about making FreshBooks look good, not QuickBooks. And the crappy part about this comparison chart war is that both of these competitors are asking the prospects to do the lift and to take on that burden and compare and contrast what one company claims versus another company, literally asking them to do more work in a battle of trust me. Here's what's really happening. Comparison charts seem like they're doing something to set your product apart from the competition, but really they're a lazy crutch. They let you avoid the hard work of understanding what your customers actually value. And you can't see behind the curtain. You don't know what your competitor's churn rate looks like, what their customer success team looks like, or what their dynamics is there, or how much technical debt they're carrying, or even what their customers really think about them. And without seeing the whole picture and continuing to make direct comparisons early in the game, you're competing on surface level stuff and possibly getting yourself eliminated from consideration while ignoring the deep value that actually drives decisions. So let's look at someone who's doing this right. Chewy, right? Chewy doesn't compete on pet food features or shipping speed. They compete on something you can't build in a sprint. Genuine care for customers and their pets. They've leaned into empathy as a key competitive differentiator and loyalty driver. And the way they grab you isn't by anything they do. It's what their customers do. Their customers are advocates for the brand. And their customers show you how Chewy is different. They show you how Chewy aligns with your personal values as a pet owner and how Chewy actively supports them as pet owners through every stage of owning a pet. I pulled these examples from Reddit, but you can even see LinkedIn posts about Chewy refunding unused pet food after a customer's pet passes away, and then telling them to donate it to a local shelter. Same thing happens if your pet has an allergy or won't eat the food. They're like, just donate it. We'll refund you. Not a problem. And even sending flowers when they lose a pet. Chewy is supporting customers when they didn't have to. Like their pet died. They're not going to be buying anything more for that particular pet. But Chewy showed up anyway. That's a competitive differentiator that their competitors struggle to copy, especially since they've been doing it for so long. Another company leaning into their values-based differentiators is 1-800-CONTACTS. This is the footer of their website. They use a combination of personality and humor to separate themselves from places like Costco or your ophthalmologist's office. They know that choosing 1-800-CONTACTS instead of just getting your contact lenses from your doctor's office is more of a hassle, right? There is friction built into that business model. But the people that intentionally choose them for the ease of doing business, the customer support, and feeling appreciated like a human. And that's where their humor comes in. It's a personal connection point that your doctor's office probably doesn't have. At least I haven't found a really humorous ophthalmologist, like, ever. But when we talk about competitive differentiators, values beats features every single time. Features are what you build. Values are what you deliver. Your competitors can copy your features in the next sprint, but they can't copy 20 years of caring about pet owners or revolutionizing how people buy their contact lenses online. Chewy isn't differentiating themselves because they have better pet food or because they're more convenient to buy from than the PetSmart down the street. And 1-800-CONTACTS isn't winning because they invented contact lenses, because they didn't. They're both creating competitive moats and establishing value in their brands because they deliver on aligning the expression of their values with the values that matter to their customers. The values that show up in every interaction, every touch point, and even small moments like the copy in a website footer. Features get you into the consideration set, and values get you closer to closing a deal and converting a prospect into a customer. And here's the kicker. Your paying customers are already telling you what those values are. Again, we just have to listen, and I'll show you how in just a second. So how do you find those unique competitive differentiators within your customer groups? You have to stop looking outward and start mining what you already have. It doesn't take a years-long or even a month-long customer research project in order to start this process. And I bet you have a lot more already than you think you do. So talk to your customers about their buying process, not just why they love your product after they became customers, but specifically why they chose you over the alternatives that they considered. And then dig through your customer support tickets for the language your customers use when they talk about value and why they chose you. You can also listen to social conversations from your existing customers. It's really valuable. Everybody wants to be authentic in social. It's a great way to get to the heart of what their opinions really are. And then you can apply themes to what comes up over and over and over again. Count the frequency that those things pop up as. Break it down by customer segment, and then use that customer language in your copy, your positioning, and even your product roadmap discussions. The key here is that you have to get information from your paying customers, not your audience, not the market. These two groups don't have a vested interest in your business. They haven't spent money on signed a contract with you. So anything they say means significantly less than the people who are supporting your payroll and keeping the lights on. And if you think that you can shortcut that process of talking to your customers because it seems like a hassle, so you're just going to use ChatGPT instead, I mean, you could take that shortcut, but it's just going to crank out a list of boring ass features for you. Like using ChatGPT could give you a jump start on creating a competitive chart that, again, is going to train your prospects to value features and to value price. But we're better than that. We can provide more nuance. We can provide some more emotional connections and touch points. Let's do that instead of just taking shortcuts. And if you're thinking, we are the most boring industry, like B2B industrial lubrication, like that is not a sexy industry at all. Or even if you think like we're in a super small niche market where differentiation isn't as important as if you were in B2B SaaS accounting or even a CRM industry, there are still opportunities to lean into and align with the values that your customers hold. Here are some examples of some real competitive differentiators that I have actually seen processed and presented to clients that have nothing to do with features that your developers can build. You can have actual humans available for support instead of shoving everybody to a chatbot. providing continued education that makes your customers smarter, not just about your product, but smarter overall. And customers love giving referrals and writing a ton of reviews, and they're willing to put their social capital on the line to do that. Customers love reading real words and phrases from other customers, especially when they know they're legit. And then you can also run a sales process that's actually helpful instead of pushy. You can also be responsive when problems come up, like how quickly do you address customer support tickets? None of these show up in a feature comparison chart, but they all drive buying decisions and alleviate anxiety around making a bad choice. We're all worried about making bad choices, especially when it affects our jobs or our personal health and well-being. That's a real thing. It's anxiety. Humans make emotional purchase decisions, and anybody who tells you that we don't is lying to you. They're just lying. When we're talking about competitive differentiators, price will always rear its ugly head. But what about price? That always comes up as a competitive differentiator when we talk to our customers. Yes, price will come up as a differentiator, but here's the thing. Price is usually just a clever mask for, I don't see enough value, or I don't trust that I'm going to get the value for the price that I have to pay. People will pay what you ask within reason if you deliver value that genuinely changes their lives or their businesses. Price might be the part of the initial winning process, the initial winnowing process, but it's rarely the final deciding factor. So don't default to price competition when you haven't done the work to understand your real value and why customers chose your solution over any other solution that's out there. The more value you deliver, the less price becomes a hurdle. So don't just stop as price as a differentiator. Dig deeper and understand the value that your product delivers from the perspective of your paying customers. So to wrap this all up, here's the bottom line. Align your values with the values that your best fit customers hold and tell you they have. This is how you create a real competitive moat. Your competitors or your customers have already handed you the roadmap to differentiation. They are the secret sauce. You just have to go through and pick out the tasty bits. And stop taking shortcuts with comparison charts and feature lists and even ChatGPT to source your customer insight. You need to stop being lazy about the most important strategic work you can do. Start listening to what your paying customers are already telling you. They have a lot to say, and they bring a lot of value to the table. So that's all the time that we have today. So thanks so much for joining me on this Free Marketing Fridays episode. And I hope that you learned something useful that you can take action on today. And I will see you next time.